You should never have to compromise on comfort. Helix has mattresses with cooling technology that helps regulate your body temperature, whatever the season. By supporting Helix, you're allowing them to support me and my show. Go purchase your Helix and thank me later for the best night's sleep. Helix is offering 20% off all mattresses and order and 2 free pillows to our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/IDKAT, IDKAT, and use the code HelixPartner20, HelixPartner20. This is the best offer you'll get, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Thank you to our sponsor, NetSuite. Your business was humming, but now you're falling behind, team buried in manual work. Get NetSuite for when your business gets to a certain side and you need a more efficient system to manage risk. Get reliable forecasts and improve margins. It's the #1 cloud financial system streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more.
Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free at netsuite.com/IDK. That's netsuite.com/IDK to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/IDK.
All right. With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Head to factormeals.com/IDKAT50, that's IDKAT50, and use the code IDKAT50 to get 50% off. That's code IDKAT50 at factormeals.com/IDKAT50 to get 50% off. Shania Twain. Mark Twain. Who's more quotable?
That's close one.
Debatable.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You don't impress me much. This is, I don't know about that.
That don't impress me much?
Yeah, that don't impress me much. So you're Brad Pitt, that don't impress me much. How are you impressed, Shania? Fuck you, Shania. I'm not impressed by you.
Oh,
yeah.
Don't make fun of my woman.
I'm going to do a song called I'm Not Impressed at All.
Whoa.
Not even a little bit, not much.
No. Okay, sorry.
We recorded a live podcast. It went well.
Yeah,
It was
much fun.
It was really good.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a lot more fun. It reminded me that I was funny because you forget that you're funny when you people are just staring at me.
What?
We laugh.
Yeah, but not like them.
Yeah, it was
they
like a whole bunch of people,
really
yeah.
laughed. They
it was
really,
fans of the
they
show.
really enjoyed my company. And then you people are just like, fuck. I always turn to Jack. If Jack's laughing, I know I've made a good joke.
And if I'm not laughing?
But even then, even if Jack's not laughing, I know it's pretty good. I just have confidence.
I just forced myself to laugh there, Steve. So
Yeah, I could tell because you went.
wait, was that fake laugh?
Yeah, that was your fake laugh.
I laugh like that sometimes for real.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever really seen the real you.
Do a fake laugh.
Ha ha ha.
No,
Oh, yeah. No, that one's real. That one's real.
What's your fake laugh?
I just did it.
Oh, yeah.
We're fake laughing.
What's real? What's not
If you
real?
remember our guitar expert, Eugene Edwards, he listens to every episode.
Yeah.
And he says, I like hearing Jack's real laugh. You can hear it because it's the high-pitched one. You
Yeah.
can't control it. So he
You
tries
kind
to
of cackle.
He tries to get me to do the high-pitched cackle in real life.
What's your fake laugh?
I don't know. Something lower, I guess.
That was gross.
Yeah, it's a bad one. Yeah, make
sick.
me real laugh.
Jim, you got some dates coming up. You're in Canada a bunch.
I'm in Canada. A lot of the shows we added second shows. So there's a lot of
For other yeah.
Yeah, so there's like one Montreal, there was one Thunder Bay, there was one this, one that, and we've added second ones, and there's lots of tickets.
I believe
not lots
this
of tickets,
week-
but there's tickets for the second shows.
I
'Cause
believe
we
this
added them
week
quite
is when
late.
you're in Thunder Bay. Or
No,
if not, yeah, I'm
just
sorry.
did
No, this coming up Montreal.
Montreal, the second show
Sudbury.
has got I think Sudbury. I don't know how that's saying, but
Kingston, Canada.
come out to Kingston.
Ottawa, Canada.
Ottawa, we're playing great big rooms. Come out. We got a good show for you.
Thousand Oaks,
some of my
California.
best stuff.
Thousand Oaks, California.
Yeah, don't come if you're a person who's a bit sensitive
To where?
to my shows. I don't want you there
Okay,
anymore.
but
To any of them.
I've tried to win you over for too many years. Go fuck yourself.
you have Thousand Oaks, which is basically LA almost.
Yeah, Thousand Oaks.
Oakland, Oaktown,
Yeah, okay. Town, that's what I call it.
Anaheim,
Anaheim.
Always a good time in Anaheim.
Oh, yeah, it's Anaheim.
There's 2 shows there,
Yeah,
right?
there's like a girl called Anna that still hasn't lost her virginity.
Cincinnati.
Anaheimen.
Jesus.
No?
How's Cincinnati doing?
Cincinnati, there's still tickets for Cincinnati.
Chicago.
Chicago, a second show. Woo! The second show, you got to get going into that. So the second one, second New York, second Chicago. There's still tickets for the second shows.
And then you've got Galway, Tel Aviv.
Galway, I'm doing like 3 shows, and they're all like 80% sold. So get your tickets now.
New York City.
They'll be sold out before. New York City, 1 show sold, and the other one isn't. So
Hershey, Pennsylvania. Going to go to the Hershey factory?
I'm going to the motherland. I'm going to Hershey. Gee, you chocolate shit, but come and see me.
I don't think we can do the tour after the Lindt chocolate factory.
Oh,
There's no way Hershey's going to be.
I will go around the Hershey one and just complain.
After that Lindt tour, it's not going to. It's all downhill.
They can't improve.
Yeah. And then Austin, Dallas, and Tulsa, Oklahoma.
All those ones way out there. There's still tickets available. It's miles
So
away.
there you go. And then go to ID Cat Podcast.
I'm not one of these
Instagram.
comics who put the tour on sale and they all go in 10 minutes. I'm not one of them. I'm a slow burn.
Not with that attitude.
Sometimes, every now and again, I do all right.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
I'm doing okay. This is one of. I'm having a lot of fun on the road at the moment. I was getting a bit jaded about the road, and I'm having a lot of fun at the moment.
All right. Well, we got a good podcast today.
Who wants to hear some ads?
Nope.
No,
we don't call those.
No.
All right.
What I was saying is, we got a good podcast today. Let's meet our guest. Okay, please welcome our guest, Jesse Joyce.
Hey.
G'day, well, I know Jesse.
Yeah, but that's okay. You can still welcome him.
All right. Well, now it's time to play.
Yes, though. Yes, though. Yes, though. Yes, though. Judging a book by its cover.
Well, I've known Jesse for years now, probably since about 2010.
You don't know the topic, though. That's
I know,
for
but
sure.
Jesse's a comedy writer and comedian and all that. But he used to be always the writer that was assigned to me on at midnight.
Yeah.
He used to have to come in and have to. I was always very happy. It was either him or Vanessa Ramos.
Wait a second.
He was your
you didn't
wrangler.
Write all those yourself?
No. That was the quality that was coming out.
He did.
I'm going to.
You did.
Yeah,
Like, I would
no,
help you cobble.
Yeah.
I would
No,
help
I'd
you help
always
shape.
Yeah, I'd always throw in a few.
He knows what he's doing.
I was doing better than actors who came
Yeah,
in. Surely,
yeah.
surely I was doing better than them.
Right.
But yeah, so why? So it's not comedy based.
A little, but not really.
I mean,
So,
it's
it's funny, but it's not.
It's historical.
Oh,
but you're
okay,
You're not
so
going to
it's-
guess it, but just go ahead and just pick around, and then I'm going to give you
So
some
it's,
hints.
so it's funny, but it's not.
There's no way you're going to guess it. I'm just going to eventually
So
tell
it's
you.
not like a genocide or anything like that. Nothing like that.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I mean,
those
it's
aren't funny.
dark.
Yeah, it's
but
dark, right?
It's
Because you're
funny
saying-
because it's dark.
You're saying like it's dark. Okay, but it's the Dark Ages.
No.
Yeah, they were very dark. It was constantly dark. Is it a historical thing? Is it American history?
Yes.
Okay, American history.
And-
Is it okay? So I'm trying to think of funny dark American history.
Yeah, you're not going to get it.
Is it the moon landing?
No.
No.
Because it was dark on one side of the moon.
We already did this.
We did that.
I'm just
I know,
letting
but-
you do this until I decide to tell you what it is, because there's no way you're going to
All
get
right,
it.
tell me.
He might.
No, go again. Try
All right, good.
Ask some more questions.
So it's something to do with history. Is it got to do with war?
Kinda. Yeah.
Is it within the last 100 years?
No.
Was it in the last 200 years?
Yes.
Okay, well, America's only about 200 and fucking years old, so we're,
But no,
I was going to run out.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of
so is it the Civil War?
Yeah. Well, it's more specific than that.
Gone with the Wind?
No.
All right, let me tell you what it is.
No, I've got it. The Civil War.
Okay, I'm glad
Is
that you
it
keep-
is it gout?
Some sort
Is
of
it gout in the Civil War?
No.
Well, that's pretty specific.
It's president adjacent.
Is it the assassination of Lincoln?
Okay, look, I'm going to give you some credit there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Almost.
It's very close. It is centered around that. yes.
That's close enough for me to give you what it is.
Yeah.
You're not going to
Is
get
it
it.
John Wilkes Booth's driver, The History of.
Wow, you're
Very
really
close.
close. Really
Very close now.
Honestly, very close.
The subject is two people, Edwin Booth and Boston Corbett.
Yeah, I'm not going to know anything. I know that the Ford Theatre, that Lincoln was shot by John Wilkes Booth. And
This is
I'm-
Edwin Booth, though.
Must be his brother.
All right, well, we'll see
1
what
point.
happens. We'll see what happens.
Ding, ding.
Jesse Joyce, let me introduce Jesse. Jesse Joyce is a stand-up comic and an Emmy-nominated and WGA-winning writer. That's Writers Guild Award.
Yeah.
Jesse is currently a writer. Well, I guess not currently, right?
Currently I'm
on strike.
Yeah.
You enjoying the air conditioning, Jesse?
It's nice to be inside. Yeah.
Is currently a writer on Jimmy Kimmel Live and has also written for At Midnight, the Comedy Central Roast, the Academy Awards, the Emmys, the Tonys, Broadway musical.
I did.
Says it in here, yeah. And now his
You
first.
wrote a Broadway musical?
Yeah, shitty one. Yeah. Like a really shitty one.
All of them are that.
Yeah, no, but this was even shittier than it. But it did get a Critics' Choice Award. Or
What was it
whatever,
called?
So. It was a fucking short. It was. It's embarrassing.
You're cursing,
It's,
so you already know.
Sell it to
Short
us.
musical?
it's embarrassing.
Was it like
Like,
half
it's
a
genuinely
song?
embarrassing. It's you know the guys who won American Idol, Clay Aiken and Ruben Studdard.
Yeah.
They wanted to do a Christmas Broadway show, and I just got hired to write it. So I wrote their Broadway Christmas thing. So it was only on for like one season.
That's all right.
What's funny is if you just said that straight, nobody would ever go look it up. But because you're so embarrassed by it, I bet people will go watch it.
It's bad. Yeah.
You still stay in touch with Clay Aiken?
No, they like kind of like it's not his fault entirely, but I kind of got fucked over by the whole production. They like I did do the writing of it, and then I had to sue him to get paid. It was a big thing. So
fucking
anyway,
Clay Aiken. Always have
yeah.
to sue the bastard.
But-
So he's written and all that stuff, but most currently, he has just written his first book, and it's called "Killing the Guys Who Killed the Guy Who Killed Lincoln." A nutty-
that just told me a lot.
yeah, it
Killing the
did. You
guys
might
who
see if you
killed
can
the
remember
guys
that
who
when
killed-
asking a question. A nutty story about Edwin Booth and Boston Corbett. That's who we're talking about today. And this book is. Well, tell us a little bit more about the book and like where people can find it.
It is on Scribd, which is like the Netflix of books, is what they call it.
Yeah.
So, you know, Scribd. Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm
it's
a
a
Scribd
Scribd
user.
original, and so it's an ebook and an audiobook. And you can go and you subscribe, and then you have access to their entire library, and you can read mine for free for 60 days. I have like a code that
Like,
you guys can look at.
What's the code?
Jesse brings by far the best gift of any of our guests ever because not only do you get his book for free, you get Scribd free for 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'm upset. It's in my top 5 apps.
Oh, great.
Literally.
Oh,
I
cool.
use it every single day.
It is
So,
great. There's
yeah.
like tons of stuff. There's all kinds of cool like audiobooks, and there's even magazines and ebooks you can read. Anyway, it's try.scribd, SCRIBD. There's no E at the try.scribd/Jesse try.scribd.com/Jesse Joyce. That's
We'll put it in the description.
try.scribd.com.
We'll put that on the screen. We'll put it in the copy for all the audio stuff. And we'll mention that again. I remember we've been talking about it the whole time, too. So, all right, Jim, I'm going to, ask you some
I
questions.
don't know anything.
No, there might be a few in here. There's a couple.
Okay.
I wouldn't know anything about this, but there's a couple I would maybe know the answer
All right.
to.
I
You know
can't
the
believe you
broad
don't know about
strokes of the Lincoln assassination.
I do. I just watched a thing the other day. It was one of those shows where it's like with Lucille Ball and all that type of stuff, where they ask like yes or no questions to a person.
Oh, the old guy?
It's just basically this TV show. Yeah, there's an old bloke.
yeah.
It's this podcast. Right? But there was an old bloke who was on it who saw the Lincoln assassination.
Yeah.
And he was in the theater and he was 5. And then he was like 98 years old. He comes on the show and Lucille, everyone's smoking on the show. And the show's like sponsored by like Parliament cigarettes or something like that. And then they're like, this guy's like 98 and he's got a black eye because he fell down some stairs on the way here, but he still wanted to be on the show. This guy is fucking old,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's just like, and Lucille Ball's like, has it got something to do with the president? Like that, right? Anyway, so this guy's just there. At the end, they go, now obviously, I'll call him Walter. They go, obviously, our friend here, Walter, we offered him a carton of Parliament cigarettes, but he said he does not smoke cigarettes. And I'm like, of course, he lived to 98 years old.
Yeah.
And they go, he smokes a pipe. So here we are. We're going to give him just tobacco, a big, like, fucking tin of tobacco like this.
Why would he smoke cigarettes? He's not pregnant.
All right, so I'm going to ask Jim a series of questions about Edwin Booth and Boston Corbett, but some other things in there that not necessarily like specifically about those people. But
Okay.
I'm just saying because you might be able to get some of them, or at least a good guess. And at the end of me asking these questions, Jesse, you're going to grade Jim on his accuracy, 0 through 10, 10 being the best. Kelly's going to grade him on confidence, 0 through 10. I'm going to grade him on et cetera. We'll add all those scores together. If you score 21 through 30, you're a Booth sleuth. Get it? All right.
sure.
I didn't know what to do for this topic, guys.
I just-
11 through 20, Corbett Orbit, and then 0 through 10, Edwin is a hard word to rhyme something with. Maybe Edwin Bedwin. Question mark. Okay,
Wow,
good times.
Barely worked.
Let's just edit that out. All right.
No, I like that a lot. honestly.
Who were
So
the,
I'm grading him on
Yeah.
your guesses.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask
No,
all the
but knowledge.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
ask. I'm gonna,
okay, all right.
I'm gonna ask all the questions at once, and he's gonna answer them. You just
Yeah, you're on
Just,
accuracy.
you know, I don't expect you to do
sit
anything.
back and relax right now.
But you're
Just-
grading him on
And
accuracy.
I'll repeat his answers, and yeah, I think we know what the score is gonna be.
He's gonna crush this.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim. Who were the biggest celebrities in the 19th century?
In the 19th century, so that's like I always get fooled up by this. Right?
1800s.
Yeah, it means
Yeah.
1800s. You always
Yeah.
get done by that, right?
Yeah.
So in the 1800s, who was the biggest celebrities? Would have been the president,
Okay.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
His wife Mary, she would have been one.
Like I'd say entertainment.
Entertainment.
Start with that.
There's always vaudeville.
Yeah.
That's the answer to every fucking question in history. It's an old vaudeville trick. It's something they used to do in vaudeville. If you say that in any historical entertainment fucking guise, right, you could get away with it.
Yep.
So vaudeville stars,
Well, I'll tell you this. I've said 2 names already. They're on this list. You remember the names?
Connie Booth.
Connie Booth's in there.
Connie Booth played. Connie Booth was John Cleese's wife.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He played Polly on Faulty Towers. So John
You can do the thing when you don't know. Just say Booth.
Booth.
Yeah.
Booth, and because John Wilkes Booth was an actor.
Yeah.
So maybe that was in the whole thing. Him and his brother used to do vaudeville and who's on first and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so his brother,
I like that you say vaudeville. By the way.
vaudeville,
I feel like
It's like Jim Jefferies.
Australians-
Very official.
It sounds like it's adds a
doesn't
syllable.
exist anymore. So what difference does it make?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's an old vaudeville trick.
None of this stuff
Vaudeville.
exists that we're talking about. We still
Yeah.
want to pronounce it right.
So he would have been an actor. He would have been a very famous actor, and he was the cousin or brother of John Wilkes Booth.
And then there was another name I said, but you don't remember.
Yeah. What was the other name? And they were famous as well. And maybe Chaplin was... No, he wouldn't have been... he would have been at the end of the 1800s.
Yeah.
And he was a big vaudeville act. And he came from England, you know. And he came over and really lit things up. Back when this was just fucking orange fields as far as the eye could see.
Orange Fields.
Yeah, you know where his studio is now the Muppets one. And they have like Kermit
but-
the Frog there.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have orange fields here in the 1800s.
Yeah, it was fucking fields, man. That
Yeah,
was
Burbank,
studio.
that's all
That
it
studio
was.
was sitting down.
Not
that-
1800s.
Why not?
Because it's not native oranges. They planted them here.
Yeah, they had. It was all
All right, that's
farmland.
another podcast.
See,
for the-
watch the movie Chaplin. It's like that whole street was just fields and shit where
Yeah, it is
where they
1800s,
put
though.
like a bit of material that went like this, and everyone acted like they were running.
I think he's being a stickler of
yeah.
about 30 years, 40 years, something like that.
So there would have been.
1915.
Forrest is
maybe.
never a stickler.
Tell me everything. Tell me everything you know about Edwin Booth.
His name was Edwin from the Greek for Edward, and Booth from the Greek for telephone box.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say diner.
Edwin Booth, he was a actor, not a comical actor.
Yeah.
But he could do comedy and drama. There wasn't anything he couldn't do.
And do you know who Junius Brutus Booth is?
A.T. Brutus.
A.T..
Julius Brutus Booth would be their father.
Great with Latin.
John Wilkes Booth and
Vaudeville,
the other
A.T..
Booth of Dad.
Okay. And do you know anything
They're
significant?
the Booths.
Okay.
They all came out on the stage. We got the traveling booths. Yeah. Da 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 da. Boom.
It's like the Marx Brothers.
Yeah. Booth Boys.
Junius Booth would spend time in jail from time to time. What was significant about
Her time in jail? Or
His time in
His
jail.
time in jail?
of an event?
He wasn't as raped as much as you think. Like, it wasn't a lot, but he came out and he was like, I wasn't all bad.
What important historic event?
3 square meals a day. He came back jacked.
What important historic? I guess they didn't do that back then. They didn't go into jail. I'm ripped. What important historic event happened the same week the American Civil War ended?
The murder of the assassination of Lincoln.
You're piecing this together pretty good. with
Yeah, the
that now.
assassination of
Okay.
Lincoln.
Who killed Abraham Lincoln?
John Wilkes Booth.
Where and how?
In the Ford Theatre,
Okay.
up in the booth. I always call him the Lincoln booth when I see him when I'm on stage. I'm going, there's a Lincoln booth. And he's like, I need to see this play like I need a hole in the head or something like that. and then John Wilkes Booth jumped from the balcony onto the stage.
Yeah.
And then he ran for a while, and he ran down the street, and they found him in some other building, but he escaped, he evaded for a bit.
That's what I was going to ask you. What eventually happened to John Wilkes Booth?
They caught him in the end.
Do you know who or where or anything?
A couple of cops caught him.
Okay. Now, did Edwin Booth, his brother, continue acting after his brother killed Lincoln?
He didn't do the Lincoln impersonation anymore out of respect. Because he thought that was, that was poor taste. See, okay, so I reckon he would have tried to act, but people would have been like, boo!
Yeah.
Your brother killed the president. But also, we all know that the Booth boys, like, so Lincoln was a Republican, right? Lincoln was a Republican, and they killed him, so they would have been Democrats. They would have been a bunch of fucking lefty actors, wouldn't they? Oh, you wouldn't want to use the wrong pronouns around the fucking Booth boys. They would have gotten on you right away. They would have been a bunch of lefties.
All right, who was Boston Corbett? You know anything about him?
He was in a stage production of NCIS before the invention of TV. That was the original. And so he'd come in like dun 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 in the state of New York or something like that. And he'd come on and he'd go, put your hands in the air like that. That would be his show.
Okay, these next questions are important to the
1800s
story
sound cool.
that we're going to learn about. What was a common medical condition among hat makers or hatters?
They got mad, like the Mad Hatter, because of the, I want to say, mercury that was put to stiffen up the brims.
Nice.
And that would make you go insane.
Doing better than you thought.
And like for Lincoln, it made him grow a beard and everything because the hats he kept on wearing.
Here's another question. How did they...
No moustache, though, was a side effect.
Very Amish.
It's an absurd look. The audacity.
Have you ever done it, like just at home?
Like just when I'm shaving it.
Yeah, it just
like
feels-
I'll just leave it. And I'll get
I'm
rid of
always
that.
very open about, like, I like to do Hitler for a bit. I always shave that bit last. I shave around it. Just for a couple of days if I'm not leaving the house, just to entertain. And then I'll do like a full mow. Sometimes I'll do the mow down to the bottom.
Yeah.
But I never. I once did it. Just shave the moustache. It's a completely different face. It's a bold choice.
Look ridiculous.
That's what my beard does naturally. It's terrible.
Yeah,
This
and
stops
look-
growing and this keeps going. Like
yeah, your
right now,
mustache is
like
weak.
You get
blonde or
the
something.
Planet of the Apes face.
Yikes.
You know how they get the face in the middle and they got the hair all around here?
It does look like that.
You get the Dr. Zayas.
At least I'm a doctor.
Now he's giggling. Dr. Zayas.
Yes, Dr. Zayas. Oh, wonderful film. I love it.
Jim, how did they treat gonorrhea in men during the 19th century?
Forrest.
I don't know why I said that. As soon as I said your name, I'm like, why did I say that?
How do they treat gonorrhea
In men.
In men.
During the 19th century.
Because it's different than how you were treated more recently.
Yeah. I reckon sweat boxes. Sweat it out.
Okay.
Sweat it out. Bit of a sauna. Let's get this pus out of you. They'd squeeze a bit. They'd squeeze it. Use a bit of
From
soap.
the bottom, like
Yeah,
toothpaste.
like that. Yeah. Roll
gotta roll it like toothpaste.
roll it up. Squeeze it all out. Then sweat box, baby. Good old fashioned sweat box.
What was booze like in the 1800s? Like, what was it made of?
Like this. Boo. Booze.
Was there booze in it? Was there other stuff? Do you know anything about booze in the 1800s?
There was alcohol in the 1800s. That was before Prohibition.
Okay.
So they were drinking and they were dancing like this.
It's like the 20s.
Anything different though?
No, but
Okay.
the young people.
Did anyone do cocaine in the 1800s?
Wait, did he
Yeah.
answer that question?
Yeah.
That's the same.
1920s
Yeah.
dance moves. Okay.
Yeah. They used to do
If so,
cocaine.
whom?
The Booth Boys. Like, ironically, they did it in cubicles.
There's cubicles then, huh?
Yeah, they call them booths.
Oh, wow.
They didn't actually invent cocaine until they invented screenplays.
Oh, really?
Because there was nothing
Ah,
to pitch
yeah.
to people when you were.
I thought there was no cocaine until they invented the toilet seat. I thought it went the other way around.
Do you know what Andersonville is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. No problems. How about this? Were child soldiers used in the American Civil War?
Yeah, of course they were. Of course
What do
they
you mean,
were.
of course?
Well,
Tell me about it.
They were fixing fucking chlamydia through the squeeze method, mate. You don't think they were bothered about? Like if you had some illiterate kid, right? You'd like fucking send that one to war. That one's not going to be any good. Now, they still have kids fighting in wars in different continents around the world now. Yeah, of course. I've seen Gone with the Wind as well.
Okay.
Scarlett O'Hara. back then, okay, so what's his name who played the lead in Gone with the Wind? What's his name? Bert.
Rhett Harris, something.
What's
Clark
his name?
Gable?
Clark Gable.
Gable.
Clark Gable was actually playing a 14-year-old. It's just that the diets were so bad back then.
Yeah.
and everyone was a smoker.
Oh, wow.
Smoking pumpkin.
I'm gonna,
And all the cocaine.
Yeah.
I'm going to reword this question. Okay, so Boston Corbett was castrated. How did it happen? Like, what was the procedure? How did it happen? Yeah.
I only know the joke about the guy who goes away. He's a king, and then he leaves, and so he puts he puts razor blades up his daughter's vagina so that no one will touch it.
Holy
That's a
Lord.
really funny joke. I like that.
You never heard that joke? And so he comes home. Everyone wants to fuck his daughter, so he comes home, and all of his employees have to drop his pants, and they're all missing his dick. And he's like, "You're all fired." And he goes up to the last bloke. He goes, "Why don't you fuck my daughter?" And he goes, "I don't know." When you're a kid, you thought that, when you're about 11, you thought that's a piece of gold.
Anyways, castrated.
Like she's just walking around with razor blades up her vagina like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Crazy. It was crazy back then.
Yeah. They had no autonomy in that decision
He was
either.
castrated because
that
why
joke.
would he be castrated? Because he gave birth to John Wilkes Booth, and they were like, we can't have
This
this.
is Boston Corbett,
Oh,
the guy you didn't remember.
did he try to shag Lincoln after he was dead or anything?
We'll see. Okay, last question here.
And they did that so he couldn't impregnate dead Lincoln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
And which hole did he use? The one in the head or?
Too soon.
Actually, there's a couple other questions here. Since I'm not gonna say more Boston Corbett
Because with the beard, it looked
What?
like okay.
what is the Players Club in New York City, and how does that relate to what we're talking about?
The Players Club would be an improv acting troupe that got they were on strike. They were unionising.
Okay.
And then they got radical, like a sleeper cell, right? And so you got like the Booth boys. So you got the one Booth guy who actually went through and shot it, but he wasn't the mastermind. The other brother was the mastermind. Very similar to that of the Boston bombing. You had the good-looking lad and then the older brother who was just a bit of a dickhead. The good-looking lad wasn't nothing to write home about either. He was a bit of a prick as well. But I feel like the older brother was the guy that was working it.
Okay, last question. What was significant about the timing of Edwin Booth's death?
It was...
Should have said spoiler
yeah,
alert that Edwin Booth is dead.
Sorry.
He died from an abscessed tooth, and it was 2:30.
Wow, that was right.
It's pretty good.
Jesse, how
I feel
did
like you just have one of those like old joke books that you just recently took a dump because you really have several of those ancient jokes at the ready.
I've been doing a game show, and so we don't have a warm-up guy really. And so in between like the ad breaks and stuff, I just make the contestants tell jokes to each other. There's 100 contestants, so I know so many pub jokes now. It's outrageous. I used to have like 2 in my back pocket. I got like 15 of them now.
You told me a good one the other day.
Which one was that one?
I don't remember.
What's 6.9?
Yeah, I know.
What?
A good thing destroyed
A good
by a
time.
period.
All right, good.
Yeah, that was it.
What's the difference between chickpea and lentil? I've never had lentils on my face.
All right. Jesse, how did Jim do on his knowledge of Edwin Booth and Boston Corbett and all things adjacent to them? 0 through 10. 10's the best.
Like a 4.5,
Yeah,
right?
that's
pretty
Like
good.
it's not that
Not bad.
bad. Like
That's how I
more
passed
stuff
high school.
than I thought, and especially
I don't
being
think you
from
passed it
Australia.
then.
Like that's not none of this is required knowledge for you. So
No, in Australia, we've never had a prime minister assassinated. We had one that went for a swim and never came back.
really,
Yeah,
while
he
he
told
was
me
in
about
office.
that.
Swimming where?
he was in office.
Uh-huh.
His name was Harold Holt. Now, the joke is that every hacky comedian's ever done is that we have a Harold Holt Memorial swimming pool. I believe in Melbourne, which is true. But he went for like a swim at the beach with his like Secret Service just sort of standing at the beach, and he sort of swam out, and then they never found him again. And he was in office at the time. Yeah, the Prime Minister just went for a swim.
How do you just lose the prime minister?
Like how long?
This should be an episode.
Was this
How-
in your
He wouldn't have
lifetime?
security detail?
No, this is like It's like I believe it was like in the 1950s or something. Like
How long did
it's
they,
not? It's
like-
not so long ago that it's like it was. We had like it was.
We had helicopters, methods to save people.
Oh yeah. And he was.
They could have been in a boat. People
He was
protecting
the
him,
most
or-
important bloke in the country.
Yeah.
Went for a swim, and then people were watching him, and then they couldn't see him again.
Wow.
It's crazy.
How long did everybody collectively wait before you guys got a new prime minister?
I don't know, but there's some
Like,
there's
it's like, you know how you can't report somebody missing for like the first 48
Right,
hours.
right, okay,
Like,
okay. So his
had to
name
wait
was
around.
Harold Holt, right? And they go, and one of the news reports after a week, they go, after all the investigations, the cop said in a press conference, after all the investigations and after all the searches, we have come to a dead halt. And
Wow.
he's like, I fucked that up.
Oh, wait a minute. He didn't do that on purpose? He had to have done that
You
on
want to
purpose.
hope he did.
Okay. It's pretty clever. It's clever.
It's Helix Sleep. I'm on the road so often. You know, I tell you what I miss. What do you miss? I have a pillow that I take with me because I like it, but I also miss my own bed.
Yeah.
My own bed's a big thing. There isn't a single bedroom on the road that touches my bed. My bed, I get the best sleep. Why do I get the best sleep?
Helix.
Because you got me a Helix mattress, and I was skeptical, but it's got cooling technology. It helps regulate my body. I run hot. My wife runs cold, and now we run together.
We all got mattresses.
The Helix lineup
They're
offers
awesome.
20 unique mattresses, including award-winning Luxe Collection. That's just been newly released. Elite Collection, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers. This for big, tall people.
That's what I got.
Yeah, he's big and a sleeper.
And I run. I'm telling you, like I run so hot when I'm sleeping, no matter and so this mattress has been awesome because it's so much better to sleep on. Like I'm not like hot. And, like,
Yes, thank you,
dying,
Helix, for the
sweating.
mattresses.
I had another mattress. I started using the Helix. It's changed everything. So, how will you know which Helix mattress works best for your body? How would you know that? You take the Helix Sleep Quiz and find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. And your personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. No moving people, no nothing like that. It just arrives in a big box. I've got one. I took the Helix Sleep Quiz and I was matched with the Helix Twilight Luxe mattress because I wanted something that felt on the firmer side. And I sleep on my side. I'm a side sleeper.
Same.
I'm a side sleeper. My wife sleeps on her stomach like a psychopath.
Yikes.
The best part about the Helix, in my opinion, is that they know there's no better way to test a new mattress than sleeping in your home. So you get 100 nights trial. That's more than 3 months. 3 months and 10 days typically, depending on what months you're going to
guy's
use.
good at math.
And a 10 to 15 year warranty to try out your new Helix mattress. So you get the 100-day night trial, you get a 10 to 15 year warranty. What do you got to lose except for tossing and turning?
Yeah, and they take away your old mattress. Well, that's what I did. I had a thing where I put it in and they take the old mattress away.
Don't
They
want
did
to
it all.
take my word for it. Helix has been awarded the #1 mattress picked by GQ and Wired magazine. It's even recommended by multiple leading chiropractors and doctors of sleep medicine as a go-to solution for improving your sleep. Helix is offering 20% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/IDKAT, IDKAT, and use the code HelixPartner20. That's HelixPartner20. This is the best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Your business was humming, but now you're falling behind. Team buried in manual work, taking forever to close the books. Getting one source of truth is like pulling teeth. Is this you? You should know these 3 numbers. 36,000, 35, 1. That's 36,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. Kelly?
25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs.
1.
Because your business is one of a kind, so you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs, which are key performance indicators, in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need, all in one place. So I actually used to use NetSuite when I worked in finance and solar.
When you did your smart person job.
Yeah. So this manages, like, if you have a business where you're dealing with customers, this keeps your entire customer database. You can look up like how your sales are going, all of that stuff managed under one tree. So it's really easy to use.
Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you the consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/IDK. That's netsuite.com/IDK to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/IDK.
And I can do safety time.
With all the busy fall season already swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle.
Too busy this fall to cook, but want to make sure you're eating well? With Factor, skip the extra trip to the grocery store and the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too, while still getting the flavor and nutritional quality you need. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back to crushing your goals.
Crushing.
Adjust your stride this autumn without missing a step. Choose from 34 plus weekly.
What? That's a lot.
Weekly flavor-packed, fresh, never frozen meals ready to eat in 2 minutes. Looking for calorie-conscious options during the busy season? Try delicious dietitian-approved Calorie Smart meals with around or less than 550 calories per serving. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions, source 100% renewable energy for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. This September, get Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Simply choose your meals and enjoy fresh, flavor-packed meals delivered to your door. Ready in just 2 minutes, no prep, no mess.
Last week, I had some garlicky mushroom chicken thighs, and they were, well, I'd say good.
Yeah?
Garlic.
But I'd be lying because they were great. It's garlic, it's mushroom, it's chicken thighs. I haven't had a meal that I haven't liked from Factor yet.
Yeah, they're all
healthy.
really, really good.
I don't know if you noticed, but I've lost a little bit of weight.
Trimming up.
I've lost a little bit of weight. Not a lot of weight, but a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
Factor.
Our buddy Sean Marquette swears by it. His whole fridge is chock full. It's like head to toe.
And even if you don't
meals.
pick the ones that are like specifically calorie conscious, they're all like pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Like you can't go wrong with
I was
that.
so happy when they came because I was like, oh, this will be easy.
Like,
to
yes,
eat.
I buy this anyway.
Greg got my meals for the week figured
Yeah,
out.
no,
Thank
I was
God.
like,
Head to factormeals.com/IDACAT50 and use the code IDACAT50 to get 50% off. That's code IDACAT50, IDKAT50 at factormeals.com/IDACAT50 to get 50% off.
It's good.
all right. How did you do on confidence, Kelly?
His confidence started, before very, very low, and it kept growing, and most of the time unwarranted. But I think I think I'm gonna give him a 7 on confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're up to 11.5. So even if I give you a 0, you're Corbett Orbit.
Corbett.
'Cause I don't want to say the other thing.
What an
that's really
achievement.
long. Yeah.
To get
you
into
did
this
it.
for you.
category that,
Wow.
that
Congratulations,
Forrest
dude.
clunkily made up 3 seconds ago.
That's what-
This
Edwin
morning.
Bedwin made me laugh.
That's one of
I'm
my.
usually a little more creative, but the topics.
I know.
That's one of me heckle put downs. This is the only reason because whenever I'm in a theatre and there's a booth and someone heckles from the booth, you go, "Where's John Wilkes' booth when you need?"
Oh,
it?"
right. Yeah,
That
sure.
crushes
Yeah.
every time.
Internationally, too? Does it
No.
work? Only in America.
I've only been
Right.
able to do it like 3 times.
Okay,
like
right.
you've actually
The-
have to have the
statistically,
heckler from
somebody
the,
had-
from
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing.
right.
Like it's a pretty
You
obvious.
did it when that girl threw the beer at you.
Yeah.
And that was in the Lincoln Theater.
Yeah, in the Lincoln Theatre.
In D.C., yeah. This girl
When
just
did
like
this happen?
She was a plant.
Not in Ford's Theater, right?
7 years ago.
No. This,
Oh,
this
just
is
a
this is a woman
theater
who just,
in
a woman just
DC.
threw a full can like this
And from the side,
from
one of these
the
things.
side, and she was only elevated like 2 feet above.
You said something that upset her.
I
forget.
said something misogynistic, and
That's so unlike you.
This beer just went boom like this. It went boom, and then it was a full can, and then it hit so deep, like like onto the stage, like such a dull hit. It didn't
Yeah.
bounce, just donk, and then it just went glug 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 into a puddle of the thing. And I just sort of looked at it, and then I went, you know you have to go, right?
Yeah, it's,
Like, I didn't even like go kick her out or anything like that. I went,
Right.
I go, you know, right? You know what's happening. And she was like this, yeah, I know.
It was resolved in a second. She's like, yeah.
the lack of impulse control is so funny because you paid for the ticket, you paid for the beer that you didn't drink, and now you have to leave.
And,
It's so
and her
stupid.
friends all stayed. They went, all right, Sandra, we'll see you later. Right?
She's a bitch.
It was
Sorry.
it was 10 minutes in the show, tops. 5 or 10 minutes in the show.
It wasn't a big deal. It was just someone had to clean the puddle.
Is that a record? The fastest you got somebody riled up like that?
I had a bloke. The biggest gig I've ever done is the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, that was
and there
a
was
good one.
14,000 people there. And there was a bloke that heckled. And I was talking to one of the security guys, and some bloke was like this, "Oh, fucking leave him alone. He's trying to do his job." Like some like
Don't take the piss of the staff, G.
I was being mean to the working class or some shit. But I was having a joke around with one of the security guys, right?
Yeah.
And I was getting into a story. You know, they stand on the edge. Sometimes you talk to them, you try to make
Right.
them laugh. And so this guy, I said, all right. I dealt with him. I did some heckle put downs and stuff like that. And then I was like, all right, you got to go. And then it is a weird thing with hecklers. If you say you've got to go and security show up, if security doesn't, the security can't touch you. If you just sit there like this, no.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Called
It's a
your bluff.
fucking. It's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
stalemate, right? And so this guy just went no, right? And then eventually they went, "Come on, mate." And then he just sort of reached in. The guy just sort of slapped his hand away, and then they're like, "Game on." As soon as they touched him,
him. Right,
they were
right,
just
right.
going,
Poke
yeah.
him,
They got him on all fours
They
and
can
took
get very
him
good.
out.
Anyway, so they got him one person each limb. Right?
Oh, right.
40,000 people. He's out there
Like
kicking.
pallbearer
Yeah,
style?
he's trying to fucking get out.
And he
it's
had
like-
14,000 people all booing.
it took a bit of shine off the gig because I wanted to have a good gig that day. I didn't want to fucking have people, that type of thing happen. But anyway, it turned out later, I'd met some people who were sitting next to him. He had gotten engaged that night. They went to dinner, got engaged, and then like, hey, the top of the night, we're going to see a comedy show. And so they had a few drinks, and he was there with his fiancée, and then... She was engaged for about 2 hours before he was being booed and lifted out by 14,000 people. It was fucking
And
quite
she stayed.
She stayed.
Yeah. Oh,
The
wow.
rest of the
I
gig.
feel like that'd be a reason to break up with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who would do the breakup? Would she break up with him?
Yeah.
Or would he be like, you
No.
have my back?
Yeah, I would.
either
That would be
way-
such
either
a
way.
massive
That-
red flag to me.
That's one of the things with being married is sort of like you're not breaking up. Like I know people do break up from being married, but there's a feeling of you got to put up with each other, right? And it's like I always like when there's like a couple in the crowd and the bloke's like the woman's like screaming and saying something, and the husband's just like this. I'm 20 years in. But you can't change her.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing. Some drunk guy gets fucking mouthy, and then the wife has to walk out afterwards. Sorry, everyone.
Right.
Those people aren't breaking up. They just
That's
accept.
just
They just
Todd.
accept each other.
Hey, he's kind of throwing. She's yelling at you for once. Take some of the heat off me for a minute.
You know what I remembered about that night that woman threw the beer at you two though is, do you remember there was a guy that said he was my cousin? You were on stage though, so, and the road manager goes, "Hey, I think your cousin's back here." And I'm like, "What? I don't know." And I went back to the backstage door, and there's just a guy there, and I go, "That's not my cousin." He goes, "Oh, okay," and then he just walked away, and I was like, did he think I was going to see him and be like, yeah, this is my cousin? Like, I don't know what his end game was. I was like, yeah, it is my cousin. Come on in. I was like, what the fuck kind of weird shit is happening at the theater?
Well, that Melbourne gig as well. Afterwards, I remember we had a big party. We went out gambling. My nephew was there, who we all know passed away recently, and we had a really good night with Michael Gudinski and all that type of stuff. And Michael Gudinski, who's like the head of entertainment for all of Australia, like the guy. There's a documentary just come out about him called Ego, which I'm very excited about seeing. I text Forrest about it today. And Michael Gudinski, who's like the most famous promoter in the country, he was spraying champagne around backstage.
Yeah.
And me, as the artist, I went, hey, can you not do that? Because they might come out of my deposit.
It's like, I'm a billionaire.
Yeah, I'm meant to be this rebellious comedian. Hey.
I have to pay for that, man.
All right, let's get into these questions. I asked you who were the biggest celebrities in the 19th century. I know there could be a lot of answers here. You said Lincoln and Mary and vaudeville stars. And then
Vaudeville
Connie
star-
Booth,
Vaudeville.
Chaplin.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
couple of porn stars.
So who are we talking about? Well, talk about
They weren't in the talkies.
I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Tell us.
It'd just be written.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm coming.
Let's talk about who the biggest like entertainment celebrity or actors and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, Edwin, the Booth family was huge. John was the least famous of all of them, right?
He was like a Stephen Baldwin.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the dynamic, or one of the Hemsworths we don't know about. So
There's only one of them.
Oh, okay. Well, that one.
I've met him.
Okay.
He's the oldest one. He's
The
the one.
accessible Hemsworth.
He's the one who got the family into acting.
Oh, really?
He was the first one. He went through, do all the course and that type of stuff, and then the good-looking brother's like, oh, I might give it a go as well.
Right.
Anyway,
Well, give that guy some credit for not getting so jaded that he kills the prime minister.
He's still working, Luke Hemsworth. Okay, so
Their dad was a super famous actor, like incredibly famous, Junius Brutus Booth. He was the most famous Shakespearean actor. He was a British guy, came over to America, toured all over America, was huge, right? And then John's older brother, Edwin, kind of took over, and then sort of a second generation of actors, kind of a Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas thing.
Sure.
And then John is Eric Douglas in that scenario.
Does everyone know the famous Eric Douglas story?
I didn't even know who Eric Douglas.
Eric Douglas sadly committed suicide.
Yeah.
So I don't want to
Oh, is this from the comedy club?
Yeah, I don't want to take.
Yeah.
But I believe there's footage of this. But in the Comedy Store in London, this is a famous story. Eric Douglas decided that he was going to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I know the story. It's great. It's
okay.
fantastic.
Well, this is for the people at home, right?
It's worth it.
And yeah, so what happened is he was on stage. The British, the greatest hecklers of all time.
Yeah.
Kirk
Douglas's son.
Yeah, and so he was sort of getting like not much respect from the crowd, and he gave it a fuck you. Do you know who I am? I'm Kirk Douglas's son, is what he said. And then someone stood up and went, no, I'm Kirk Douglas's son.
Yeah.
No, I'm Kirk. And they did the whole scene from Spartacus.
One by one, audience members popped up and said, I'm Kirk Douglas's son.
And there was people who were doing it, even though they didn't understand the reference. They just went, oh, well, I assume this is funny, and I have to be involved. But I know several people were in the room for that actual incident.
Oh, really? Oh, amazing.
Don Ward, who owned the Comedy
yeah.
Store, has told me the story.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I've heard this story before.
No,
it's
a true story. True story.
Okay.
London Comedy Store.
Great.
So Edwin Booth.
So Edwin Booth was then he was even more famous than his dad. He was the most famous actor in America. And when John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, like nobody knew who John was. John was like a shitty wannabe hang-around kind of actor. And so the conversation, basically people were like, did you hear that Edwin Booth's brother killed the president? Like that's how people talked about it, you know?
Right.
So, and then just because of what John did, nobody remembers that Edwin existed.
I had no idea that. I knew that John Wilkes Booth was an actor, but I didn't know that the family was famous.
Yeah.
Now that you know it's a famous person doing it, it's even fucking weirder.
Yeah, it would have been super weird at the time
Because
older
also,
people would have known the dad too. They'd be like, "What? Who? Fucking Junius Booth's son killed the president?"
So famous that he probably could have just get invited to the White House.
Yeah.
Could have gone to a correspondence dinner.
Edwin was. John Wilkes Booth wasn't that famous.
Yeah, but
he was close enough.
But like go to his brother. Fucking give me in.
Edwin was like Lincoln's favorite actor. Like Lincoln would go and see Edwin, saw him perform like 6 times.
Really?
At Ford's Theater. Yeah.
And it was all Shakespearean. It was all. Did he do comedy or was he a dramatic actor?
Comedies existed. The play that Lincoln went to see was a comedy. It's not funny.
What was the play?
It's called Our American Cousin. It's just like the Beverly Hills Hillbillies.
Yeah.
They're like Crocodile. It's a fish out of water story, like Crocodile Dundee or whatever. Like,
I want to see it.
It's like an American hick goes to England.
I like Crocodile Dundee.
You know what it's exactly?
I like Beverly Hills,
I know.
Billy.
I did that for his benefit. Do you actually know what it's exactly like? You remember that movie King Ralph?
I love King Ralph. I reference King Ralph.
Our American Cousin.
I reference King Ralph about once a week.
Yeah. Well, Our American Cousin is like King Ralph.
King Ralph
yeah.
is just the best premise for any movie ever.
Yeah, so
all the royal family die at once, and you have to make it hilarious. You can't make it like a plane accident or something like sad, right? They all get electrocuted standing on a fucking raked stand.
Yeah.
It's fucking tremendous movie.
Yeah.
And then John Goodman becomes the king.
Yeah.
And some people in Britain get behind it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Fuck, it's a good movie.
That's
because
the
the reality
play.
is you would just shut down the royal family and go, oh, we're done. And then you wouldn't go, oh,
Finally, it's over.
yeah, we're going to get a singer from New Orleans or whatever the fuck he was.
what's
He was like a club promoter or something. Like,
he was a club singer because afterwards he brings out an album in the over the
right.
end
He's
of
wearing
the credits,
sunglasses and
he's sort of dressed like Mozart or some shit.
Yeah. Right.
What was the name of the play again?
It's called Our American Cousin.
There you go.
So,
Our American Cousin.
But
I
it
wanna
does
say,
not.
is there a movie of this?
Like hold up,
No
like
way.
the specific, like the premise does. But
That's why they should remake
jokes.
it. It's like you only remake movies that are bad. Why did anyone remake movies that are already good? So you don't remake Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is fucking great, right? Ocean's 11, the original Ocean's 11 sucks.
Yeah,
the premise was
so
good.
Remake.
So you
shitty
made
movies.
that.
Yeah.
So remake our American Cousin.
That's a really good point. Like, give it another shot.
Yeah,
we
but
know
my
what
point
went wrong
is,
the
it
first
kinda
time.
happened.
Let's try it better.
hundreds
then
of
send
times.
Biden to see it in the cinema. Just fucking see what happens.
It's just they basically do just fish out of water like that. The premise just keeps getting regurgitated. But like so, Lincoln gets killed. John knew the play obviously because Edwin's girlfriend wrote it, right? So and she was the lead actress on stage that
Is she
night.
a good sort?
Yeah, so she was huge. She was so big, she toured Australia, actually, back then. Her name was Laura Keane. She was like the most famous actress.
Wait, so she
she
toured
wrote
Australia in the
American
1800s.
Yeah.
So
and
Australia,
Edwin went with her.
Modern day Australia started in 1788.
Yeah.
Right. So let's.
This is in like the 1850s.
Right. So we're talking about a 60, 70-year-old country.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't have been much there to tour.
And you said Edwin Booth went with her?
Yeah, Edwin went with her, and they broke up there because he was such a drunk that he like embarrassed her in Australia.
Yeah, but who's going to find out?
And well, yeah, I mean that's kind of.
Oh yeah, she's a matronly looking woman, but like sometimes I find like history looks change, like what we think. Are
Oh,
good
totally.
looking.
I mean, everybody says that John Wilkes Booth was like the handsomest man in the 19th century. Like every time that he's mentioned, it's about how like gorgeous he was, right? But like,
Ew.
I
just looked him up.
I told my son we were watching National Lampoon's Vacation. I went, "Here comes Christy Brinkley. They never made him better than this.
Yeah.
This is the hottest girl that ever lived." And my son's like, "Yeah, she's a."
yeah.
What are you not seeing?
Yeah.
He's grown up in this fat ass generation of Kardashians and all that type of stuff, and he can't see the beauty of a Brinkley.
Yeah, it totally changes. Yeah, so, but yeah, I mean, but like you got to also recall that, yeah, like by 19th century standards, like as long as you
back
hadn't
then-
been kicked in the face by a
Yeah,
horse,
so
you were the handsomest person
She had
alive.
a pronounced
showered
face.
that week.
And let's have a look at Booth.
Yeah, this is Booth.
So anyway,
that's John Wilkes Booth.
John
with a
knew
moustache.
the play because his brother's girlfriend had written it, and he hung around the theater all the time and whatever. And so he knew he shot Lincoln during the big laugh line in the play, like the funniest joke in the whole play.
That's not a knife.
Which is incredibly stupid. It doesn't work. It's I know enough to turn you inside out, you sockdologizing old man trap. And the crowd fucking exploded. They thought it was the funniest shit in the world. That stupid ass, whatever the fuck that means.
Yeah, but you know what?
So
It's because
goddamn funny.
It was like swearing. It's like
sockdologizing.
It's
old
like when
man
you
trap.
see a movie
So-
with no swearing, and then the old woman goes, "You cunt."
Yeah. Right.
And everyone laughs.
So everybody laughs, and then that's when he pulls the trigger, and to because it's a good moment to do it, because then everybody's just confused, and that's when he jumps off the balcony, breaks his leg, and then goes running out, like crashing out the theater door. He gives a little speech too from the stage.
Why did the Booth boys not like Lincoln? What happened?
Well, Edwin did. Edwin was a union guy. Like he was very pro-union. They all were. Like all the Booths. Junius was like a super liberal, like really. And by the way, just so you know, this distinction between Democrat and Republicans literally did a 180.
were the more lefties.
It did a total 180.
And that sort of changed around Nixon-y type of thing.
Yeah, with the Dixiecrats and all those guys. Yeah. So anyway, so long story short, Edwin was like a big Lincoln supporter, and so but here's the thing: he was like very protective of his. It's kind of ironic that John. He was like very protective of like the family name, and John sucked, and he didn't want John like dicking up the family business. You know what I mean? Like so, because his dad, he inherited the Booth name and theater from his dad, right? So like, it was a big deal that Edwin Booth.
Did they own the theater?
What's that?
Did they own the Ford Theater?
No, but he owned the Booth, which is a theater in New York that still plays like Broadway shows. The Booth.
Okay, yeah.
So, anyway, so what was I gonna say? So
You didn't want him mucking up the family.
yeah. So basically, what happened is that Edwin, who was the more established actor, when John wanted to get into the business, was like, he tried to talk him out of it, and the whole family tried to talk John out of it because he was dumb and shitty, right? So, but he insisted. And so Edwin was like, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. This is in the 1850s. He's like, I'm going to do all the cool northern cities like New York and Philadelphia and Boston and Chicago, and you can do all the southern places, like just these like, you know, undeveloped like Mobile and, you know, whatever. So he like kind of banished John to the South in the late 1850s, right before the Civil War. So like John basically then ended up just only hanging around after shows with these like, you know, chip on their shoulder, angry Southerners who were constantly bitching about the North and how everybody in the North's trying to keep us down and all that stuff. And it was like, oh yeah, so is my brother.
So he basically fell down the rabbit hole.
So he like got radicalized, like QAnon style, by Southerners right before the Civil War. So that's how John got, because
And it's Edwin Booth's fault.
Exactly, because he was raised in a family that would have been like, you know, pretty liberal, you know. So it was because of that.
Then like Thanksgiving and stuff, they're like, oh fucking John.
Totally.
Just
he's the
steer the conversation away from politics.
Absolutely.
Good turkey.
He's all right. Just try to keep it to fucking syphilis and sport.
Yeah.
I did ask because you had so many interesting weird facts in there, and I just asked a question about like Junius Brutus Booth and his time in
going to jail? Yeah.
but I mean, you can.
So I think this is super funny. This is like a goofy, funny story. So the book's funny, by the way. Like it's a comedic retelling of these two guys' lives. So, one of the times Junius, who was like a crazy.
Sorry, which one was Junius?
The dad. The dad. So like, you know, John was like raised by this fucking lunatic, right? So he would go to jail all the time for like public drunkenness or public nudity or whatever, like starting a fight with people. A lot of times when he would perform like Richard III or whatever, he would just decide on stage that he didn't want to lose the sword fight this time and would really fight the other actor like out into the lobby with a fucking toy, like a wooden sword, you know, and they'd have to pull him off him and they'd arrest him, you know, like
yeah, but really,
it's like it's historically documented that Richard III gets killed.
He commits.
Yeah, but so he was like that kind of just temperamental lunatic. So he gets thrown in jail for something, and the guy who's his cellmate is just some like yokel dude named Fontaine. That's all we know his name is Fontaine. And Fontaine was a horse thief, and back then that was an executable offense. You'd get like executed if you stole horses, right? So this dude is going to get executed the next day. But suddenly, just stroke of luck, he's in a prison cell with like the most famous guy in the world. And he's like, holy shit. So he's like kind of like star fucking Junius Booth in prison, right? Not literally fucking, but he's just, right? So the next day he goes to the gallows and he makes a request. He's like, can you guys give my skull to Mr. Booth so he can use it in his shows? So the Uruk skull, the one that like they would perform Hamlet with, and then he passed it down to Edwin, and you can still see it still exists to this day, is like his cellmate, this real dude's human head. So like when Junius sobers up and like they hand him back his keys and his cell phone and whatever, they also hand him this dude's like fresh skull. Like they wanted you to have this. So then they just carried it around with them all over the country.
It's still around?
Yeah, you can go see it. Yeah, so it's in the Players Club.
Oh, the
Yorick, I knew him well, or whatever.
Yeah, so.
Okay, and then I asked Jim what the important historic event happened the same week as the American Civil War ended, assassination of Lincoln,
Which is super fucked up, because it was like literally they had just won. Lincoln had just won the Civil War, and everybody was partying, and it was like a week of celebrations. And then on the fifth day, like Lincoln was like, fuck it, I'm going to go see a play. War's over. And then that's the day that he gets
let's say
killed.
6 months earlier they assassinate Lincoln. Do we have a different end to the Civil War?
I mean, possibly, yeah. I mean, they were on the ropes kind of by that point, but still, like, yeah, that could have absolutely rallied, turned stuff around, So,
so he was just radicalized. So he was there. His sister-in-law was on stage. His brother was in the play.
Well, they weren't married, so it wasn't his sister-in-law. It's his brother's ex-girlfriend.
His brother's ex-girlfriend. But was his brother in the play as well?
No, he wasn't in that play. He was performing in Boston that night, ironically.
And what was John just dicking around the theater?
Yeah, and because he like was a wannabe actor.
And would have Lincoln, if he sees him, gone, it's fucking Edwin's brother. I've met him. What's his bloody name?
He exactly. And in fact, Lincoln saw John perform one time. Yeah. Like a couple months before, and was like reportedly very unimpressed with John. He was like, "Oh, this is Edwin's brother," like that kind of thing. And apparently, this is, I thought, fascinating. John was the bad guy in the play, and every time he had like a menacing line to deliver, he would deliver it at Lincoln. He would like glare at him and do the bad guy lines, and to the point where like Lincoln's secretary like leaned over, was like, "Is that when is this guy's like doing all these lines to you? And like Lincoln actually reportedly said, like, "Yeah, he does look pretty sharply at me," or whatever.
Now,
Signs.
is there any recording of Lincoln's voice? I used to do a routine about this.
Do not think that there is. Those those wax recordings did exist, but not that early. But there is a recording of Edwin. There's a recording of Edwin's
That's the whole thing.
voice.
So they kept on
Like
going on.
Thomas
Who
Edison.
played Lincoln in the movie?
You mean Steven
Daniel
Spielberg?
Day-Lewis?
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah.
And they're going, that's the best depiction of Lincoln.
Oh yeah, that he was all squeaky or whatever.
How the
yeah.
fuck does anyone know?
Yeah.
Well, 7 years ago.
Yeah, that was-
He could have been as camp as
Yeah.
a row of tents.
Yeah.
To be like 7 years ago, gathering everyone.
There's
like
Yeah.
there's no.
As a history dork, like there are certain things where it's like, okay, that might be a little bit more, but you don't need to fucking just don't make them sound like that. You know, and like in that one with Matt Damon, the
Good Will
and Ben
Hunting.
Affleck. No, the one
The
about
Martian.
the last duel or whatever.
I haven't seen that one.
You know what I'm
that
talking
really
about?
bad
Yeah, I know of the movie.
Yeah,
It was,
and
Ridley
they have
Scott,
those
right?
absurd mullets because
Yeah.
all right, technically sure you can find tapestries with people with that haircut, but you don't actually need to give Matt Damon that fucking ridiculous absurd haircut. You know what I mean? So that's, anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So John Wilkes Booth killed Lincoln, and then what happened to him?
He went for a run.
Yeah.
He said he broke his leg. Yeah.
He ran.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Jim said eventually he was caught and killed.
I always think about like people who like assassinate people and then they go for it. Like the two guys, the Boston bombing type of thing, right? I watched that documentary.
Yeah.
You're going to get caught eventually. Like it's your photos all over the fucking place. It never ends well for you assassinating or doing a
But
mass
this is
murder.
the 1860s. You would think you stood a pretty decent chance of
Oh
getting
yeah,
away
that's
with
true.
it,
He's
you
not
know?
going to get on the news or anything.
Right.
Cameras. Yeah.
No
And-
cameras. Yeah.
And realistically, all he had to do, in theory, was get to the South, and they would have protected him or hidden him or whatever. So he thought that was what his logic was.
Didn't he break his
So-
leg too or something?
Yeah, he broke his leg jumping off the balcony.
Yeah.
So
Snapped it or just sprained an ankle?
No, he really broke it. Like
Then
had
how
to
did he
get
run
it set.
away?
Well, he like hopped off stage and got on there was a guy waiting out back about a horse.
Who was that guy?
Just a guy who worked in the theater who got dragged into this shit, and like that guy knew John, and John was like, "Hey, hold my horse." So
That's why this all worked out, because they were all actors.
because they all knew
And
that
so you go to
John
the theater
had
and you're
every
like, yeah,
reason
it's
to
just
be
John
there.
Wilkes.
You know,
Yeah.
it was like he's like an open micer at the theater, more or less.
Right,
So
right.
people kind of knew, like, oh, John's here again. So it was like nobody thought that was weird. So but that guy, the guy who was supposed to hold the horse, gets dragged into the whole trial later, and like he gets acquitted. He's the only one who gets acquitted because they realize like, oh, he just worked at the theater and had nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
But
he's the horse holder.
But the newspaper, I think this is funny. The newspaper reporters like just eviscerated all the conspirators, right? Just like all their articles are just about like what a dope they look like and everything like that, you know. And this guy who ends up not having it, but they said his name was Edmund Spangler, and they said Spangler has an Italian look. Like they meant that as like the worst
got him.
insult you could possibly like. That is such a sick burn by 1860 standards.
Forrest, you have
So-
an Italian look.
Yeah. So
No, he doesn't.
anyway,
What were the conspiracy theories of the time, and do any of them still exist?
yeah. Well, that John wasn't that shitty an actor. Like all that stuff, has been. There's a whole bunch of shit that has been like rewritten by Southern sympathizers, specifically the Daughters of the Confederacy, who's this like group of like chubby Karens that still exist that try to rewrite.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love a nice
So-
Southern girl.
and they're the ones who like are protecting the Confederate statues and shit. Like all of
Drinking
which
their,
were put up
drinking
in the
their sweet
1900s.
tea and their mint juleps.
Yeah, them exactly. So they rewrote this thing that was like John was like this famous actor, which he was. He was like he's a shitty actor. And he's like an open micer compared to his brother. And then also that it was about states' rights, all those things. Like that's all like part of that.
Did he ever
conspiracy.
do stuff with his brother? Did they ever act in the same?
Yeah, one time. Yeah, there were three. There was another guy named Junius Jr. basically, who was like 10 years older than them. So he doesn't really factor into the story too much. Like he kind of does. He went out to San Francisco and became an actor out there. But one night, the three of them did a show together. They did Julius Caesar like 6 months before they killed Lincoln, or before John killed Lincoln, and John wanted to play Brutus, the assassin, but Edwin was the famous one, so he was like, "Fuck you, I'm playing Brutus." So, and it was like just one more, like "fuck you" to John kind of a thing. And they did it to raise money to build a statue to William Shakespeare which is in Central Park. Like, you can go see it right now. Like,
Wow.
So that statue is there because the three Booth brothers did a benefit show to build that statue.
Wow.
And did Edwin Booth continue acting after his brother killed Lincoln?
Talking about Confederate
said,
statues.
Jim said he did continue acting, but he didn't do the Lincoln impersonation anymore, in respect. Yeah.
Which was a good joke.
Well, that's the theory. There was a comic, right, who used to impersonate Kennedy, and he was on all the
Oh,
Tonight
right.
shows.
Yeah.
And everyone loved him. And he had other impersonations, but his career went in the toilet as soon as Kennedy, because everyone thought of Kennedy when they watched him.
Yeah. Well, this is even more fucked up. It's similar to that. So Edwin quits acting, right? He quits in the New York Times. He writes a big letter to the readers of the New York Times saying, "I'm done with acting because of what my brother did," basically. And then he sits around his house for like 6 months and then goes, "I'm back!" Like, he just comes back to acting.
I got other skills.
Like, exactly. And the first thing he does is he puts on Our American Cousin, which is like super fucking ballsy. Like, it's in the same year that Lincoln was killed during this comedy.
Assassinated.
And so now he goes and puts that play
not
on.
Everyone, it's bloody
Redo.
good play.
And
It's the King Ralph of our time.
yeah.
He says, "You dune bug shovel shifter,"
Yeah.
and everyone laughs.
So, like, he was like real insecure the rest of his life after that. Knew that nobody was going to remember him and all that shit, which ended up being true. But
Well, he's more remembered now because of that. No one would remember him now. It would be over if his brother didn't assassinate Lincoln.
well, yeah. I mean, like, in another 80 years, nobody's going to remember Charlie Chaplin. I guess you could argue that it's just if he was just known for being famous. But
Footage of Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
20,
Well,
like,
the people who didn't have footage.
but 15 years or right after he died, people probably didn't remember him. They were like, Edwin Booth? Oh, he's the brother of John Wilkes Booth.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
how it became,
The narrative
you know?
shit switched where
Whereas
suddenly
before
he's the
he was
brother of John
famous.
Wilkes Booth.
Yeah,
But yeah, he switched. He mostly played bad guys after that, and like Iago in Othello or whatever, or Macbeth or whatever. He played bad guys, and that worked. And he was like actually ended up being like super popular doing that.
Was the dad still alive?
No, the dad was dead. The dad drank just festering river water and then shit himself to death. He was poor. So, because like he couldn't be by himself.
They needed
and,
a
like,
reality show
Edwin was,
so badly.
Edwin was like his babysitter on the road,
Yeah, there
and
should
then
be
they
a
had a
movie about
fight
the
when
booze,
Edwin
for
turned
sure.
18. It was like, go fuck yourself. And his dad went off on his own and immediately drank river water and died.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, the theory is, and I think this is really interesting, is that people were like really more interested in seeing Edwin play bad guys after, because they looked similar, John and Edwin. And so people would go and sit in a theater and see the face of the guy, like the biggest villain in America.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like scheming to kill King Hamlet. You know what I mean? Like, so it had this like, holy fuck, like that. You know, it had kind of a appeal to
more
it.
menacing.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so now who was Boston Corbett?
Oh, okay. So Boston Corbett's the guy who chases John Wilkes Booth down and kills him.
Oh, right.
Shoots him in the back of the head in the same spot that Lincoln was killed, interestingly enough. But he was a Mad Hatter who, you got that right. It was liquid mercury, which I think is kind of interesting. They used to steam hats in human piss. Like, that's how they did it. So, like, any picture you see...
Naturally.
Any picture you see of
That's how I
anybody
wash my clothes to this day.
wearing a hat, that was absolutely just soaked in the guy who made its piss. But then they realized, and I think this is such a weird detail, that hat makers who made syphilis made better hats, right?
Wait, that had syphilis?
Yeah, if the hatter had syphilis,
Because
like,
he pissed on it.
Yeah.
well, because they used to treat syphilis with liquid mercury, right? And so their piss was full of mercury, and that made better
maybe.
hats.
There was really bad rationalization. I got like logistical, like, and therefore we use mercury now.
Yeah, well, so that, but it was true.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
liquid
sure.
mercury. So they realized that it wasn't the piss, so they stopped pissing on hats and started steaming them in mercury. But what that meant is then you were in a closed room breathing in mercury vapor for like 8 hours a day, and that's what made hatters crazy. And so Boston was one of those guys. And so he just was a lunatic, and then his wife died, and he became an alcoholic, and he became homeless, and then he was living on the street and became a street preacher. And while he was a street preacher, 2 prostitutes came up to talk to him, and he got really horny, and he got really mad at himself for being horny, and he went back to his apartment, and he read that part of the Bible about how if your eye is offending you, cut it out, or whatever, if your hand, cut it off, you know,
Jesus.
and he cuts his balls off with a pair of scissors.
Yeah, that was a castration.
And then...
He should have just cut his eyes out.
Yeah. But he cut his balls off, and then he joined the Union Army, and then became like a super soldier, and then he tracks Booth down and kills him. So, and that's like kind of the beginning of the story.
Why his
but
balls,
Boston
though?
Corbett.
It's not like his balls get hard.
No, if you don't have the balls, you wouldn't be
Oh, really?
Yeah,
aroused.
you wouldn't get
Yeah.
right
I think
there,
he realized, like, well, maybe I might have to go back to peeing on hats at some point, so I can't cut my dick off.
Yeah,
you know?
we
Oh,
also,
yeah, he did.
you
Yeah,
know,
he
Also,
does
you
that.
need to urinate.
Now,
That's
why,
what I mean on hats. Yeah.
why is this question in here? I forget. How did they treat gonorrhea in men during the 19th century?
Because with mercury.
No,
Syphilis.
that's syphilis.
Oh.
Edwin had gonorrhea, and that's how he killed his first wife. Actually, he gave her gonorrhea, and she died because she had complications in childbirth and died from gonorrhea. But he apparently back
What the
then.
fuck is it with bloody STDs? What a fucking pain in the neck they are.
Yeah,
Like, if there is a God, why that?
yeah.
You put your dick in someone, we die. Like, fucking hell. When I was a kid, AIDS was all the rage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very popular.
And
Yeah.
fucking every time you
Magic
put
Johnson got it.
The week I was about to lose my virginity, Magic Johnson got fucking
Oh,
AIDS.
no.
Like, thanks,
That would
Magic.
give you pause.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks. Brilliant. Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like something I wanted to do more than anything in the world. I wanted to have sex more than anything in the world with the full knowledge that it'll probably kill you.
So he's got gonorrhea.
Yeah,
Edwin
back
Booth.
then in the 1800s, like it was like a badge of honor for young guys to have gonorrhea because it meant you fucked a lot, right? So Edwin would like brag about having gonorrhea, but then it's worse for women and it killed his wife. So, but this is really interesting. The way they treated it back then is I guess there'd be episodes where it would like swell up or whatever the hell. The way to get the swelling down, you would take a giant book and put it on a table and smash it with the book. So, and the biggest
You were
book
pretty
back
close.
then
It was like
Bible.
Bible.
was the Bible.
the
And
good
so,
book.
fascinatingly, both of the guys in this book had their dick disfigured by the Bible. You know what I mean? Because that's why Boston cut his balls
He
off
cut his balls off. The castration.
because of that verse
the
in
Bible,
Matthew.
yeah.
And then Edwin was walking around with a pancake dick.
So religion is bad?
How did you
Yeah.
learn this? This wouldn't have been passed down at school, would it? How
That's
did
what
you-
I was.
I've read a
asking.
bunch. I've read a bunch of books about both of these guys. There's not many books about Edwin, about Boston Corbett, but a lot of what's known about Boston Corbett publicly is that he cut his balls off and then killed Booth. But Edwin is like a well documented. There's tons of books about Edwin because he was a famous guy. You know, so
They need to make a movie of your book now.
that would
I'm
be
throwing
fun.
it out there for you,
Thank
but I mean,
So,
I can see it too, like the comedic, making it comedic, but also
Have they made movies of John Wilkes Booth? Of course they must.
not
Yeah,
Edwin
well,
Booth and
he's-
Boston Corbett though. Like you could tie it all together.
so I don't think he's ever like the main character in a movie. I think it's probably happened, but you know, John Wilkes Booth shows up in a lot of movies around that, like The Conspirator, that one Robert Redford did. With,
Just
like he's a
the
character
Booth,
in
the
it.
Booth boys.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but and also
make a
Edwin's
movie
almost
about all
never-
them, all the actors and stuff, and
Yeah, yeah.
make the assassination just something that happens at the end.
And then you
Yeah.
have this, but you could have this Boston Corbett character come in too because he's got all this crazy shit that happens with him.
Oh
too,
yeah,
so-
yeah. So then he kills Booth and he gets in big trouble for that because they were supposed to arrest him and have a big trial. But he kills. So they arrest Booth. They arrest Boston Corbett, which he did because God told him to kill him. By the way, so
So how long was it until from the time he escaped? To
12 days.
12
Booth
days.
ran for 12 days and he got to Virginia and they tracked him down to a barn.
And he tracked them. This crazy guy
Mm-hmm.
tracked Corbett.
That's impressive.
Well, he and his unit. There was like,
Yeah.
you know, like
I mean, his
18
balls
or
wasn't
19
just
guys
shot
that did it, but he was.
And so is there Jack
Leading
Ruby
the
shit
charge.
going on where they thought that it was?
Oh yeah. So,
happen, or-
well, they didn't think that Boston was in on the conspiracy, but there's a big conspiracy that started later, which I think is fun. But so he goes back to New York or to DC to be court-martialed. But he gets there, and there's like a Super Bowl parade for Boston Corbett because he's a hero, because he's the guy who killed John Wilkes Booth. So like he's such a big celebrity now that they can't kick him out of the army or arrest him. So they like make him a hero, and Matthew Brady, the guy who takes all the pictures in the Civil War, takes his picture, and that becomes like a trading card, and everybody wants Boston Corbett's baseball card, right? And then he goes on tour and starts touring around America, reenacting the killing of John Wilkes Booth, like in theaters and shit. So like right while Edwin is no longer able to go and perform because he quit acting because his brother did, and he's like a mess. Suddenly Boston Corbett fills that void and becomes like
Did he have
the
a high
biggest
pitched voice
ticket.
because he cut the nuts
No,
off? Or
in
is that a
fact, I
fallacy?
happen to know he has like a real low voice. Like he had a booming low voice, is how somebody described him. So one of the guys in his unit or whatever. But
And what happened
But
to
it-
him in the end?
yeah, so he goes back to making hats because he doesn't know what. So he keeps mercury poisoning himself, and he then gets so crazy. So then part of that conspiratorial like rewriting of history, the South starts saying that John isn't really dead, like QAnon shit again, right?
And Paul is dead.
And that Boston killed the wrong guy, and he gets really mad about that, and he pulled guns on anybody who said that about him. But then he starts to actually kind of believe it. And somebody sends him a death threat from John Wilkes Booth. Like some troll, right? Just sends him to his mailbox a letter that says, I'm going to get you from John Wilkes Booth. And he totally believes it. And he freaks the fuck out because John Wilkes Booth is coming to, the guy he killed 12 years earlier is now coming to kill him because he's mad at him for killing him, right? You're fucking crazy. So he picks up and just takes off and gets all the way to Kansas and digs a gigantic hole in the ground and then lives in the hole with guns pointed at the entrance to the hole, waiting for John Wilkes Booth to show up to come get him. And he lives like that for a while. No, John Wilkes Booth never showed up.
There was questions about booze in the 1800s and cocaine in the 1800s.
Oh, yeah.
So
you would have done a lot of cocaine in that hole.
Well, they were both like total drunks, like both Boston and Edwin, and they both got sober. But back then, like there was no, like they didn't regulate alcohol until Teddy Roosevelt shit, like 50 years later. So booze that you would get, like for not, if you were rich, you were fine. But for like just working class regular people, it was usually made by the bar. Like the bar would make the booze. And like, you know, you'd have to trust that they were reputable. But a lot of times they like were the most concerned with like getting the color right. So they would just put turpentine in it or like strychnine because strychnine killed the river parasites that killed Junius Booth. So they put like just fucking poison in it, and then they would throw rust and or tobacco juice in to make it look brown,
like whiskey,
right? To make it look like whiskey. So that's like what these guys were drinking most. Well, Boston was. Edwin was rich, so. But and then everybody did cocaine too.
So his brain was just between the mercury and the alcohol.
Cocaine was legal back then.
Yeah, and you saw like you've probably seen they like you'll show up like every night on the internet or whatever. Like they used to give it to babies, right? They would have like like Dr. Magoose's baby teething cocaine droplets. And they would literally just put it all over their for babies who were teething. So like
making my gums numb.
Yeah, and they would put it in they put it in Coca-Cola, hence the name,
annoying
right?
a baby is on cocaine though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
It's like, hey, give me the tit. Come on.
Is he not sleeping through the night? No.
He slept in 3 days.
He has a lot of ideas, though. So,
he's written a screenplay.
Yeah. He wrote King Ralph, actually. It's pretty good. So,
child soldiers in the Civil War.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah, but mostly the South, right? Because they were just like rebelling, right? So they would just get whoever was willing, or what. They didn't have an age limit or something. So there was this group of like guerrilla fighter terrorists called Mosby's Raiders, and a lot of them were made up of children, right? And Mosby was an adult, but he specifically recruited children because they didn't have wives. Right, so that so there was like
in the South though they might have.
So there was like right. So maybe that was the plan with the cousin, right? He thought you would fall in love with him immediately. The guy backstage. Yeah. So these child soldiers were just going out and like just committing assassinations and things like that, and Boston, the whole unit gets captured by these child soldiers except Boston. He's the only one who's willing to fight them. And he like fights off like 60 suicidal cutthroat children in a field for like hours.
Right now, where they're fighting all the kids on the playground.
Until he runs out of ammo, and then the children are going to arrest him or going to murder him, and then the Mosby steps in and is like, you know what, this guy's a hell of a fighter, and so they didn't kill him, and they sent him to Andersonville prison.
This is Boston Corbett, by the way. He looks
insane. He looks tough. Yeah.
He looks insane already. Yeah. He looks kind of like Tom Hardy, sort of like when he's playing, I don't know.
Yeah, he had no balls in that photo, but so that's after the fact.
That's why I'm so angry.
So,
also street preaching. Has that ever worked for anyone?
No, he just would shout at people about God.
But even to this day, you always look at him. Are you getting anyone?
Yeah.
Has anyone walked by and gone, well, God is the truth? And
it got Boston.
You know what?
That's what happened. Like Boston was a drunk, and he then became like a fan of street preachers, and he was like super annoying to them. Like apparently, this is what happened: is he would shout like loud like encouragement to the street preachers to the point where they were like he was like heckling them.
He'd give requests.
Yeah, exactly.
Psalms 3:16.
And so they all got together and they were like, you know what? Like this fucking guy, right? And they called him the Glory to God man because that's what he would do. He would shout Glory to God all the time at them, right? And so they all sat down. They sat him down one day and they're like, you know what? You would make a great street preacher. So why don't you go do it over there?
Yeah.
And that's what they did. So they like moved him. Yeah. So.
What is the Players Club? Jim says an improv acting troupe. They were on strike, unionizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close.
Pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. So they're like it's a club that Edwin founded, like a gentleman's club, and it still exists today. And it's in his old mansion in New York City in Gramercy. You ever been to Gramercy Park?
No.
Okay, well, it's over there in Gramercy. There's a mansion, and it's for like actors and just anybody who's like a successful person or whatever. So over the years, like it was started by Mark Twain and Edwin Booth and William Tecumseh Sherman, the guy
I
who
never
won the Civil
understood
War.
that. I don't want a private bar or something like that or something, but I never understood clubs.
Well, you
But
probably
no-
know people who remember now. Like so, then like Humphrey Bogart was in it, and Ernest Hemingway, and now Tommy Lee Jones and Ethan Hawke and Jimmy Fallon are in it and stuff. So
Maybe
it's just
Russell Crowe.
a club in New York City.
Maybe
No.
Krabby's in it, but I fucking. They had this one in Australia that was like they didn't let women into it.
Yeah,
Right, it's just men, and it had like 3 ex-prime ministers in it.
Yeah.
right? And they had a vote. This is like 2 years ago, and like so the super famous Australian
Yeah,
people
yeah,
walking
yeah.
out like this, and they voted nah. Still not.
2 years ago they voted no.
Yeah, still
That's
not.
amazing.
Still not letting women in. And I'm
wow.
like, all right, now you're up to no good.
yeah, that's fucked up.
That's some pedophile shit or something. If
Yeah.
if you don't want women in there,
Or
why don't you want
prostitutes or
women?
something,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, something.
Something's
There's
going
definitely
on.
cheating on wives or something's going on in
Oh
there.
yeah. They're touching dicks.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
in that building.
So the Players Club still exists. And that's where the skull is. And all
Yeah. So Edwin's apartment is still upstairs, and they kept it the same. So you can go up if you're a member and see the club, or if you're a guest of a member and check it out and see his apartment or whatever.
So he
But
does live on.
That's where the head
to some
is.
degree. Then.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was a men's only thing. They like let women in the book. I say in the 3rd season of Alf. That's when they finally decided to allow women to get in. To give you an idea. So it's been around forever. But
Oh yeah, so
but-
in the 80s they let in women.
And speaking of pedophiles, so this guy, the guy who designed it.
Point at me when you say that.
Sorry, you were the one who brought it up. The guy who designed it. This is like another just random thread I pulled in researching history, and his name's Stanford White. And he was like the most famous architect back then in New York in that time, and he looks absurd. He has this crazy fucking goatee beard thingy, and he was super famous. And he designed the Washington Square Arch,
Yeah.
which is in every movie and stuff. Anyway, that guy was a reviled pedophile rapist, like a Bill Cosby level, like
Right.
And one of the guys whose wives he raped, that guy was going. Stanford White went to see a play, and he came and shot him in the head in the theater, the same as Lincoln, and that was like the trial of the century.
Why don't you shoot
Get
him?
new material.
Why don't you just shoot him like
Basic.
getting out of his carriage, walking to the theater on the
Yeah.
street? Like why in the?
Hacky.
I think it's a good
theater?
place. Like it's it's in the dark.
Yeah, the back's
You can get up
turning.
But
right
then he
behind
jumped
them.
into the light. He jumped onto the stage.
Yeah.
John
Like you go boom, and then just walk out on the stage. You don't have to do
Yeah.
any jumping.
Right.
You did it over with the big laugh.
Right.
And then this last question here: what was significant about the timing of Edwin Booth's death?
Oh yeah, I thought this is interesting too. I learned that on the day, because he was super bummed that his brother, more or less, like nobody was going to remember him, and all they were going to remember is the shitty thing his brother did. And on the day they were burying him, on the day of his funeral, Ford's Theater collapsed, and so everybody wrote articles about Ford's Theater. Remember Ford's Theater? Remember John Wilkes Booth killed, and like his obituary got bumped to like page 8.
So the theater where his brother shot the president
exactly right.
collapsed.
So all
They
the
kept
articles.
the theater going after he
No, it
they didn't sell on the Lincoln after fucking Kennedy was shot.
No,
did
you
they?
could go to
He
the theater
tried,
still.
but they just reopened it like in our lifetime. Like
Yeah.
So,
When I was in junior high school, I saw like Godspell or something there. Yeah.
So now it's a theater again, but like the guy John Ford tried to start doing plays again, and the U.S. government was like, "Get the fuck out of here! You're not allowed to do." And so they like bought it and made it a thing, and they turned it into like a government office building, and they put a bunch of heavy desks in it, and then
I think you should put like an animatronic Lincoln in there for the shows.
with a little,
Yeah.
his head blows out.
it's really neat. If you ever go, it's like a cool museum. They have like everything. They have like Lincoln's bloody clothes, and they have the gun that
Ford's
killed
Theater?
him, and all kinds of stuff in the basement of Ford's Theater. Yeah.
When I was, we were like in junior
So-
high. We went on a trip to DC, and then I remember just like staring at the box all the time. I was like, man, that's where he was shot. I didn't know any of this shit. I was just like,
Yeah.
a kid, but yeah, it was like Godspell, which I couldn't even tell you what it is. But all right, this is part of the show called Dinner Party Facts. We ask our guests to give us some fact that's interesting or obscure that our guests can use to impress people about this subject. What do you got?
So, all right. So, do you know what the Donner Party was? You ever heard of that?
No, it was a party. It was a lot of girls called Donna.
No. It's a good guess, though. So
I've always found Donnas to be good-looking girls.
I know the Donner Party, but yeah,
I've never met a
in the 90s
girl named Donner.
You never? Oh,
No.
Donner.
You know what?
Donner.
Not Donna.
Donna.
Donner. Donner. But I see what's happening here.
I like
It's an
donut.
accent thing.
Yeah.
Donor.
I'm not saying donut either. I'm saying
Donor.
Donor
Donor,
Party.
like a donor, like an organ donor.
Donor. That's a
Yeah,
girl's
that's
name.
donor. No, you're saying donor.
No, he's
Oh.
saying
Donna.
I'm saying
D-O-N-N-E-R.
I'm saying D-O-N-N-A.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right. But it sounds
aware.
like you're adding an R to the
I know.
end of it.
Continue on, Jesse.
It's fine. I'm sorry. This is a
It's
cultural.
fucking-
We're having a
it's
cultural
bigotry,
breakdown
what
here.
you people do to me.
I'm sorry. So
Somebody-
it's the most
Donna.
famous incident of cannibalism in America, right? This entire wagon train it's kind of a known, whatever. Like there was a movie called Wagons East with John Candy. It was the last movie John Candy made, where he was a wagon train guy who was like, we're getting the fuck back. We're going back the other way, right? Because
Yeah, I've seen that one.
yeah. So well, that's why he's haunted. John Candy in that movie, he was one of the guys who was part of the Donner Party, right? So that's like his character. So anyway, the Donner Party, they like are heading west through the Sierra Nevadas, like where Lake Tahoe is.
Yeah.
And there's Donner Pass. If you drive to Lake Tahoe, you'll see it. And they got stuck in a blizzard and they all ate each other, right? So kind of like the soccer players or whatever that time. So anyway, Lincoln was supposed to be in the Donner Party. Like it left from his hometown in Springfield, Illinois, and he was buddies with all those guys. And he was a war buddy, like he served in the army. And this guy James Reed was like one of the two guys. George Donner and James Reed were the two who put the party together, the wagon train. And they were like, "Come on, Abe, come with us." So he was like, "Oh man, I'd love to. That'd be fun." And then, but Mary Todd just had a baby. And so she was like, "Get the fuck out of here! We're not taking a baby into the mountains in a blizzard, like in the winter."
People did it. They always did it in those
Well,
cases.
it's good
But
thing it
so
didn't.
she didn't let him, and she was like, "No, you're not going."
They
And
could have eaten the baby and survived.
of course, yeah, they could.
Well, Lincoln would have been first to go.
Yeah,
It's a
Lincoln
lot of
was
meat.
very tall, so yeah.
Why would
but
have Lincoln been first
He's
to go?
so tall. There's a lot of meat on him.
6'4". There's a lot of meat
Yeah.
on that dude.
Yeah, that's why he could beat up the other people. You eat the smaller folk
Yeah.
first.
So she then is like,
Women
"No."
and children first when it comes to eating.
So she's like, "You can't go." And you know what you should do? Why don't you just fucking run for office? So that's what that sort of really changed the trajectory. So like while he won that Senate seat, and as he was getting sworn in D.C. for his very first time in office, was like exactly when all his buddies were eating each other. Yeah. So
Okay, if
Pretty well, right?
we were all, who would we eat first?
Why?
He's staring at
Yeah.
Forrest.
Why is he staring at
Not
you
a
so
lot
hard?
of, it's a lot of
Wouldn't
fat.
break
Yeah,
eye
no, I
contact.
don't want
marbled.
to eat Forrest.
delicious.
I want a nice lean cut of young meat.
wait,
There
did
you
you
go,
say
Jack.
if we were all
Stop
starving?
looking at me.
I would just eat Forrest regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
We don't need to be
It's
that.
like here at
hungry.
the studios. We
Yeah.
would easily go
No.
get Burger King right now. It's like,
You'd have to slow cook Forrest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm right here.
Low and
Why do you
slow.
keep saying it?
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Yeah.
He can't hear us.
Well,
Like a brisket.
like I said, they should make your book into a movie because I've been reading all your notes and stuff. There's a million other things in the story that you haven't
nice.
even talked about. And the book again is called "Killing the Guys Who Killed the Guy Who Killed Lincoln: A Nutty Story About Edwin Booth and Boston Corbett," and it's available on Scribd.
Yeah.
And we will put the code down there, but it's
try.scribd.com/Jesse Joyce.
super
That's what it
easy.
is.
But again,
So,
we'll write all that
60
stuff
days
down
free.
there. And then and also social media if people want to find you. I didn't even say it's all at Jesse Joyce, right?
Yeah, well, no, the Instagram's Jesse Joyce 1
Jesse
because somebody
Joyce
else
1.
got
Yeah,
there
that's
first.
some other
But,
Come on.
yeah.
But thank you again for being here.
Oh
on
man,
the
thanks.
podcast.
So I hope
it
you
was
found
good
this
seeing
interesting.
you, man.
So,
It was
it was
good
great seeing
seeing
you.
you.
Yeah, either way.
And
so.
it was an enjoyable. I've got stuff now to
I'm-
tell people.
I'm a big history dork. Like I'm leaving, and I'm gonna go look up this prime minister who drowned because I think it's
Harold Holt.
That really like stuck in my brain. Like I'm super interested in that kind of shit. So yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever at a party and someone comes up to you and goes, "John Wilkes Booth was a good actor," go, "Well, I don't know about that." And walk away. Good night, Australia.